We're going to first start off with the latest when it comes to Wagner chief Prigozhin, who was killed in a plane crash. There's some updates, there's some statements that have been made. The big question everyone's wondering is who done it. And I don't know if we're ever going to really know, but we can certainly gather some clues, and that's what we're going to be doing here tonight. So let's start off with, here's the plane crash. You've probably seen this already. This is the plane falling from the sky. They still do not know exactly what it was. It looks like an explosion that caused the plane crash. They don't know for sure yet, so they haven't verified. There were some unverified reports of a rocket hitting the plane, but there's no evidence whatsoever. They said that you would have seen the trail of the missile. There would have been evidence of that, and there wasn't. So they think that, the going theory right now is that there was an explosive on the plane that detonated, like a bomb, and it ultimately took the plane down. They did find they have found the crash site. They found some landing gear. They're not showing us, we're not seeing any bodies or anything. I don't know how that, how much you can recover. I would imagine you're trying to find, I don't think there would be, after an explosion, like body parts. I don't know. I'm not, luckily, I don't know what happens to bodies after explosions. I haven't really made myself privy to that kind of gruesomeness, but, they have found parts of the plane, and they're still uncovering exactly what happened. I'm sure they will have a better idea in the coming days. Now let's talk about who was on board, because this is what's really interesting. Obviously, Yevgeny Prigozhin was on board, 62 years old. He is the head of Wagner, or was the head of Wagner Group. Alongside him on the plane was Dmitry Utkin, and he was 53 years old, and he is Prigozhin's right-hand man. This guy is actually, his call sign was Wagner. So he was the head of the food chain with Wagner Group, right under Prigozhin, top dog. He was also killed in this crash. Valery Chekalov, 47 years old, call sign was Rover, was a senior deputy at Prigozhin. They said that he was very much the logistician when it comes to Wagner Group, like figuring out, he's the logistics guy. Sergei Propustin was on the plane, 44 years old. Call sign was Cedar. They said that he was also one of the, a top guy in Wagner. Alexander Totman, 30 years old. Yevgeny Makarayan was also somebody that they don't really know who that is. Alexei Levshin, who was a senior pilot of the plane. Then there was the co-pilot of the plane, Rustam Karimov. And then there was Kristina Raspopova, who was the plane's flight attendant. And then Nikolai Matusevich. And they don't know anything about him. So what we do know, though, is that there were quite a few top dogs from the Wagner Group on this plane. There were 10 people total who were killed. And the top leadership of Wagner, if Prigozhin was to die, it would have been Utkin who took over, but Utkin's now also dead. Maybe Chekalov would have been next in line. That person's also dead. So a lot of the top figures of Wagner Group. So if somebody was looking to get rid of Wagner Group, this was a good opportunity to do that, which is why this looks very suspect, like an assassination attempt. One thing to bring up is that we're not really 100% certain yet if Prigozhin's dead. Like I said, we haven't found body parts. I don't know exactly how they go about doing that, if they test for DNA or whatever. But Prigozhin was thought to have died in 2019 of a plane crash, and then he reappeared days later. So there's some theories out there that perhaps Prigozhin is still alive, that this is just another one of those where he seemed to be dead and then he's not dead and he reemerges and nobody knows what's really going on. So, you never know. He might reemerge in the next few days, but at this point it looks like he really is dead. Let's get to one of the reasons is Putin actually coming out with a statement, so he must believe he's also dead, unless this is some big ploy that they're all into. They're doing it for some strange reason. That I guess is always a possibility, but here's what Putin had to say after Prigozhin was killed in this plane crash.
Пригожина я знал очень давно, с начала 90-х годов. Это был человек сложной судьбы, и ошибки у него были серьезные в жизни, и добивался он результатов нужных и для себя, и тогда, когда я его просил об этом для общего дела, как вот в эти последние месяцы. Он был талантливый человек, талантливый бизнесмен, работал не только у нас в стране, и с результатом работал, но и за границей, в Африке в частности. Занимался там нефтью, газом, драгоценными металлами и камнями. Вот он вчера только, насколько мне стало известно, вернулся из Африки.
So, sounds pretty solemn. He sounds kind of sad, saying, yeah, you made some mistakes. So he's a successful businessman. And so, you know, he seemed kind of sad, actually. But that is what Putin had to say about him. Here's what Biden has to say. This is where people, you know, obviously the West is pointing the finger at Putin, saying Putin offed Prigozhin. And this is what Biden had to say about it.
I was asked about this by you. I said, I'd be careful what I drink, what I wrote in. I don't know for a fact what happened, but I'm not surprised.
Do you believe?
There's not much that happens when Russia is Putin not behind, but I don't know enough to know the answer. I've been working out for the last hour and a half.
I mean, saying I'd be careful what I eat and drink, and saying that Putin, there's not much that happens in Russia that Putin doesn't know about. I wonder if he could say the same thing about himself. There's not much going on in the United States that I, as the president, don't know about. And then he says, but I don't know anything. I was just working out. So, you know, yeah, it would be nice if we had a leader that actually knew everything that was going on, I suppose. But that is, so clearly the West is pointing the finger at Putin, thinking that he assassinated Prigozhin. Lavrov, who's the foreign minister of Russia, he said he was given a statement. His statement's in Russian, and it doesn't have the captions on it, so I'm just going to tell you what he says. He says, in the case of the crash of Prigozhin's plane, it is necessary to focus on facts and not the statements of the Western media. Pentagon came out with their own statement. This is what they had to say.
On the plane that was carrying Prigozhin that went down in Russia, was it a bomb that took the plane down?
So a couple things. I know there's a lot of interest in this topic. I'll say right up front, first of all, our initial assessment is that it's likely Prigozhin was killed. We're continuing to assess the situation. We don't have any information to indicate right now. The press reporting stating that there was some type of surface-to-air missile that took down the plane. That we assess that information to be inaccurate. Again, nothing to indicate, no information to suggest that there was a surface-to-air missile. But beyond that, I'm really just not going to have any further information.
What was it? Something that came internal from inside the plane?
Again, I don't have any additional insight to provide on that. Thank you.
Okay, so, you know, again, they were not really totally clear. Lukashenko, so this is the president of Belarus. He came out with a statement and he said, I can't say who did it. I will not become a lawyer even for my older brother, but I know Putin. He is a very calm and even slow person, even making decisions on other less complicated issues. So I can't imagine that Putin did it, that Putin is to blame. It's too rough, unprofessional work for that matter. So he's saying Putin's too slow to have thought to do this, as you know, 2 months after he did the I don't know what you want to call it, the coup. It wasn't really a coup. It was like a mutiny, right? That's what I think people are calling it. So he's saying, I don't think Putin did it. He's too slow to have done it. But then it's like, well, then who did it? And there seems to be a little bit more evidence that potentially it was Russia. Here's a video that's been circulating on social media. This is a guy claiming that Wagner soldiers' graves and the markers are being taken up and removed, that the graves are basically being wiped out. So kind of alluding to the idea that they're trying to erase Wagner entirely and just forget about Wagner. And that would make one believe that there's no, that Russia, that the Russian government did it, that Putin did it. Let's play this video actually, and you can hear this guy in the stress in his voice.
Вот этот обелиск открывал Евгений Викторович Пригожин в Николаевке. А вот здесь, вот где вот эта дорожка, там были могилы. Это все снесено. Вы что творите-то, ребят? Да это же кощунство, блин. Это вы что, люди гибли за Россию, вы их тут с землей сосравняли, все могилы, блин. Вы что творите-то? Вообще, что ли, блядь, ни бога, ничего не боитесь, блядь? Вот здесь вот все кресты ребят, которые погибли. Вот, 23-й год, обратите внимание. Вот. Ребята, вот 23-й год. Вот, все здесь вот сложено, венки вагнеровские, все в кучу свалили. Вот. А вот здесь вот, где они работают, вот где вот раскатан, вот здесь вот были сами могилы вагнеровцев. Вот они были вдоль. Николаевское кладбище. Здесь непонятно, что происходит. Все венки, кресты взяли, собрали. Здесь непонятно, что делают. Вот здесь были могилы. Вот здесь сейчас вот щебень лежит. Вот здесь лежали могилы, потому что вот там Пригожин открывал обелиск.
Okay, so with all of that, the big question is who done it, right? We've got all the information that we've got at this point, and that's the question that we're trying to uncover tonight: is who done it. With us now is Scott Ritter, former UN weapons inspector and also the author of Disarmament in the Time of Perestroika. I think I got that right. Did I get that? Scott Ritter, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And yes, you got it right.
Okay. Let's start off with give us, you were just saying to me off air that the graves, you were mentioning that the graves are, that this video is not accurate. Can you give us the rundown on that? And then I want to get to who you think actually did it, who took out Prigozhin. But first, let's start off with this Wagner gravesite.
Well, the video, the gentleman in the video was outraged because it looked, from his perspective, that the markers had been removed, the flowers had been removed, and that they were, clearing out the gravesite. No, what's happening is the gravesites are actually being upgraded. Those were temporary wooden crosses. The gravesites, this is happening throughout Russia, wherever Wagner gravesites are. They are actually paving them, and then they're putting these triangular black marble markers down for each soldier that fell with his name and the dates, etc. So it's not that anybody's disrespecting the Wagner fallen. It's the exact opposite. They're actually upgrading the grave sites.
Okay, because that was kind of one of those, well, maybe Russia did do it. Maybe they were really, really pissed off at Prigozhin and now they're wiping out these grave sites and trying to erase Wagner from history. But you're saying, no, that is not the case at all. Okay, so then everyone's denying this. The Kremlin's denying that they had anything to do with Prigozhin being taken out. First, let's start off with, do you think Prigozhin's actually dead? Because in 2019, he was supposed to be dead after a different plane crash and clearly was not. So there's speculation that maybe this is something similar to that. Do you think he's actually dead?
Again, with the caveat that the final DNA analysis hasn't been completed yet. Yes, I believe that Yevgeny Prigozhin, I believe that Dmitry Utkin, I believe that the other members of Wagner that were on board the aircraft with him, the 5 other members, I believe the 3 aircrew are tragically dead. I think they were on board this aircraft. They died. The Russian president, Vladimir Putin, would not have gone on TV without that being confirmed. He's a very careful man. He doesn't make mistakes, and the fact that he went on TV and issued this eulogy means that he received indication that while they don't have the final DNA done, there is forensic evidence that clearly indicates that Prigozhin was on that plane.
Okay, so this is a lot of this pretty much wiped out Wagner Group. I mean, these guys were the ones running it. It was Prigozhin, his second in command, really the top dogs of Wagner. If they're not going to run it anymore, wouldn't Wagner go away, or is there someone else that would step in, do you think?
Well, remember that Vladimir Putin met with Yevgeny Prigozhin and 35 other Wagner commanders in the Kremlin on 29 June. 35. There was Yevgeny Prigozhin, and it wasn't his deputy, it was his business manager, the logistics guy, the guy that runs the contracts was with him. Dmitry Utkin, who was the senior Wagner commander, and then 4 junior Wagner guys who served as the personal protection detail for Yevgeny Prigozhin. They're dead. But Vladimir Putin himself, in this meeting, had said, I don't want Yevgeny Prigozhin to be the head of Wagner anymore. I want, and he pointed to a guy, Andrei Troshin, I think is his name, Wagner call sign Greyhead. He said, that's the guy I want. Troshin's still alive. So he's probably going to be the next head of Wagner. Wagner, like any multi-billion-dollar business, has a continuity plan. The idea that Yevgeny Prigozhin, a man who, first of all, he's not a military commander. So understand that all the military operations of Wagner were being done by genuine military commanders who are still alive. He was a businessman, but he had business partners. Wagner still exists. The Wagner Center in St. Petersburg still functions. Wagner has a global presence, especially in Africa and the Middle East. It's not going away. The Yevgeny Prigozhin is gone, and I think that's the extent of it.
So then that almost leads me to believe that maybe it was the Kremlin that took these guys out, because if Putin wants somebody else to be in leadership, and you've got Prigozhin and you have Utkin, who was, even his call sign was Wagner. Um, these are the top dogs, and if you wanted somebody else to be in charge, then wouldn't it just be easy to do that if you got rid of the other guys?
Well, that would be the thing if Vladimir Putin was, in fact, what the West portrays him as, this thuggish mafia don who whispers and people die. He is the president of Russia. He is one of the most serious leaders this world has seen today. He is literally the adult in the room. That's not how he operates. I don't care what Joe Biden says. Vladimir Putin is a mature, responsible leader who has governed throughout his history. And I've been studying this man since he became president in a very deliberative, consultative fashion. He is not someone who does precipitous actions like this in violation of the law. I don't believe Vladimir Putin had anything to do with this. And let me give you another reason why. Vladimir Putin was in the process of securing one of the greatest geopolitical victories of this year or the decade or the century. And that is what was going on in South Africa with BRICS, the expansion of BRICS, the redefinition of the global world order, a direct challenge to the rules based international order led by the United States. And this expansion is scheduled to happen in January of next year when Russia assumes control of BRICS. This is a huge diplomatic victory. This is what Russia wanted to be talking about. Why would Vladimir Putin do something that steals all the thunder away from that? Uh, Vladimir Putin was in the process of eliminating Prigozhin the way Vladimir Putin eliminates people. All of Prigozhin's contracts were being canceled. The Russian government was taking over all of the multi-billion-dollar concessions. Uh, Prigozhin was being squeezed out of his work. Why kill him? You've already destroyed him. He's not effective. He's a nobody. He's insignificant. The last thing you want to do is make a martyr of the man. He was going to be investigated for corruption, multi-million dollar corruption. Vladimir Putin didn't do this. I mean, did and there's a good reason to believe that nobody did this, and I'll give you the reason why. A four-man personal security detail was on the airplane. They had firearms, they had ammunition, they had high explosives on the airplane. In 2017, I believe, a Marine Corps um, aircraft carrying elite Marine commandos blew up in the air over, I believe, Missouri, because they inadequately stored ammunition on the airplane. It blew up. That seems to me to be the most likely thing. People are speculating about, the French killing them, the British killing them, the Americans killing them, the GRU killing them, somebody killing them. Maybe that is. We don't know. The investigation is taking place. But all that requires you have to buy into so much conspiracy. Occam's razor sometimes says pick the simplest thing. And the simplest thing is you had a four-man personal security detail transferring arms, munitions, explosives onto an aircraft. They probably screwed it up and the plane blew up.
That's possible, but a lot of me thinks that this definitely was seemed to me like a revenge killing because of the airmen that were killed, the Russian airmen. It's like, well, you shot them out of the sky and killed some Russians. How many was it? The airmen that were killed, was it nine?
13.
13 Russian airmen were killed. So could it have been a revenge killing where it's like, well, we're going to do to you what you did to them. We're going to blow you out of the sky.
Well, again, to buy into that, you have to accept that Russia, therefore, is a lawless state full of people in the military and law enforcement and the intelligence who carry out mafia like hits. That's not how Russia operates. It's a very structured state with the rule of law. Um, it's That's just not how it works. One of the reasons why Putin cracked down on Wagner is that it was a private military company that was operating outside the framework of the Russian governmental structures in violation of the law. That's why Wagner had to be shut down. Um, to sit here and say then that the Air Force assassinated, the GRU assassinated, somebody assassinated him, you have to say, therefore, that Russia is a nation where the rule of law simply doesn't matter. And I know that's the Western narrative, but that's not the Russian reality.
Well, but the United States assassinates people. I mean, I feel like probably any big country probably assassinates people.
Well, I
They
mean,
shouldn't, but they do.
you know, who killed Kennedy? We still don't know.
Right,
But the point is,
right.
we don't have the FBI on a regular basis blowing people out of the skies. If that was the case, Donald Trump's airplane would have been dropped a long time ago.
Well, I mean, it certainly. I get what you're saying, though. There's a possibility that just explosives were on the plane and one
Or
exploded,
or
and
he was
that's
or he was assassinated. I'm not discounting that. I'm not
yeah,
discounting that at all. But the let's put assassination on the chart, but
right.
say that assassination that was coordinated, controlled, directed by the Russian government, you have to remove the Russian government as far away from that as possible and look at other things.
Sure.
Prigozhin was a businessman in a multi-billion-dollar industry that was falling apart. People were losing money. His business associates were losing money. There's a lot of people that were resentful to him. Maybe they did something if in fact this was a targeted assassination. I just
Hmm.
believe that the culprits that are furthest down on my list of suspects is the Russian government. There's no reason for the Russian government to do this.
You don't think there was somebody in the military who maybe would want to enact revenge for the 13 airmen killed?
The military, the Russian military is an extraordinarily professional organization that doesn't operate that way, just like the United States military doesn't operate that way. I'm not going to insult Russian officers by insinuating that they will somehow go outside the framework of law to exact revenge in an unlawful manner. They took the same oath to their constitution that we take to ours, and we need to respect that.
So you're leaning more towards if you were to bet. I mean, I know we don't know, and I don't know if we'll ever really know. Maybe we will. I mean, they're going to have to look through the plane, the remnants, right, and look through potentially what may have happened. I know that there were some claims that it was shot out of the sky with a missile, but there's no evidence of that whatsoever. There would be evidence of that, wouldn't there?
Absolutely, you'd know if a missile did. First of all, there's no evidence. It was operated at 28,000 feet, so that precludes what we call a man pads or a man portable system, which means it would have to be a large scale military system, radar guided. The radar would be active. Everybody would have detected that. It's no.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but I do. But I let me say, if I were to bet, if I were to bet, I would go to Vegas and hedge my bets. I would again. I'm going to go with Occam's razor just because of the timing of this. The timing of this is so bad for Russia, so bad for Russia in the middle of the BRICS, that it allows me to put more money on Occam's razor. So I would go 60% um, the bad storage of the personal security details munitions. And I would say 40% targeted assassination by a non Russian government entity who was seeking revenge on Prigozhin for a business slight. Again, Prigozhin
Well,
operated
could
in shadows, billions of dollars,
yeah.
and he's losing that. So his contracts, the deals he made, are collapsing. He probably owes people a lot of money, and yeah.
Well, there could be another possibility that it was a Western targeted assassination, just because of what you've mentioned with BRICS expanding. This was a big win for Russia. And they would want to take the spotlight away from that, instead kill off Prigozhin and say, oh, look at how evil of a person Putin is. He
Well,
totally did this. That's a
I,
possibility too, isn't it?
I've never sat in on a assassination planning meeting in the White House Situation Room or at CIA headquarters, but I will tell you this: um, taking Prigozhin out in Moscow is an act of war. It's an act of war. And if it was done by the Western Intelligence Service, I'll also tell you this: A, we're not that good. So you're giving us a lot of credit for things that we're just not that good at. B, if we did it, we would be found out. We don't hide our tracks very well. And it's an act of war that could lead to a nuclear exchange. No president, no national leader, French, British, American, would authorize an assassination of a person of that high profile in Russia on Russian
Okay.
territory.
So you're saying that if they were to have done something, if they wanted to do something like that, they would wait till the person is traveling to some other
He
country,
was
to
just
some,
in Africa. They would have killed him in Africa.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
get him if you want to get him. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Well, before we let you go, Scott, can you just give us an update on what's going on with the war in Ukraine? Do you think that we're any closer to a peace agreement or at least some sort of ceasefire?
There won't be a ceasefire. Russia's going to win this war. This war will go on until Russia wins. The Ukrainian counteroffensive began in early June when they launched a multi-brigade assault on the village of Robotyno. It's finishing right now as they launch a multi-brigade assault on the village of Robotyno. Do you understand what I'm saying? The Ukrainians haven't advanced at all. They've
No.
slaughtered 40 to 50,000 of their troops. Almost all of the equipment the West has provided them has been annihilated by the Russians without any meaningful advance, and there's no Ukrainian troops left. They have nothing left. So, this, I think, when we discussed this before, I said it and I'll say it again. Russia achieved strategic military victory by the end of summer, early fall this year because the Ukrainians have depleted their arsenal and the West has nothing left to give them.
Well, they're talking about, I heard that some of the Scandinavian countries and other European countries want to give them some F-16s. I don't know if that's really going to happen.
Well, if let's say it does happen, the F-16s wouldn't arrive in Ukraine until the spring of 2024. So first of all, we'd have to uh, believe that the war will be continuing at that point in time, and then we can have a whole discussion about the fact that the airplanes they're giving them have all reached their expiration date, meaning that they're not flyable, and that the pilots that will be flying them have no training and will not be properly trained, and they're going up against one of the finest air forces in the world.
Yeah. And who are these foreign countries giving away our weaponry anyway? That just doesn't make any sense to me. If we're going to give them or sell them our weapons, it really should be in the contract, a clause in the contract that you're not allowed to sell this to anyone else or give this to anyone
Well,
else.
one of the delays in this is the fact that all of this has to be approved by the United States government, and Jake Sullivan talked about that. He said that the U.S. government has greenlighted the process, but it has to be worked through Congress because, as you rightly pointed out, there are contractual clauses. You can't simply give away U.S. technology. It has to be approved by Congress. It has to conform with law. And that's one of the reasons why there are these delays right now.
Yeah. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your very insightful perspective on this. Definitely brought up some really good points and appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, guys, you got to check out Relief Band. Relief Band is the #1 FDA cleared anti nausea wristband that has been clinically proven to quickly relieve and effectively prevent nausea and vomiting associated with motion sickness, anxiety, migraines, hangovers, morning sickness, chemotherapy, and much more. I personally use mine. I've had mine for years. It is the only thing that has worked for me. I've tried the pills, I've tried those wristbands that have like the pressure points, and the only thing that has really even given me some relief at all has been Relief Band. It's this, I use it because I get really bad motion sickness. I can't get on boats. I can't get on roller coasters. I can't ride in the backseat of cars. I just have terrible motion sickness. So Relief Band has really helped me. You wear it like a watch. It has like a little buzzing it just kind of zzz and then zzz, but it doesn't hurt. Instead, it gets rid of your nauseousness. So if you're feeling that way, grab yourself a Relief Band. You can actually use your HSA and FSA dollars to get one of these. So that is a really great thing. But this really does make that feeling sick a thing of the past. So you can get this for a variety of any reason why you might feel nauseous. Get the relief band, and it is going to really help you out. Just go to reliefband.com and you'll get 20% off your relief band as well as free shipping when you use the promo code Kim at checkout. Again, that is reliefband.com. Use the promo code Kim. You're going to get 20% off your order plus free shipping. Just use Kim at checkout. I definitely recommend Relief Band. It'll give you some relief.